Yep.
Oh, nice.
Hang on. I'm coming. Come back.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm waiting for like one of the kids to start like getting into an argument with their parent on national TV.
Oh, yeah, that's got to happen.
Yeah, I
Dad, you
don't
said
know.
you weren't going to do that.
And you can
I
tell.
don't want to wear for the Dolphins uniform anymore. They stink.
I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. It is the NFL Draft, Day 2, Round 2 and 3. We did the pre-draft show earlier. Now this is the post-draft show. Round 2 is in the books. Round 3 is going on as we speak, but we're here to break down Round 2 first, then Round 3. Let's start there at the top. T Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson, going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Tom, what do you think about this pick?
Well, they already got Joe Burrow. They're getting another weapon. You have to think AJ Green missed pretty much the entirety of last season. Burrow could get a 1-2 punch, and the Bengals could quickly rise up from the doldrums of the NFL to maybe, not saying Super Bowl contender, but, they could set up their franchise nicely in the next few years if this draft pick develops and forms a kinship with Joe Burrow.
That makes a lot of sense. Nate, where do you see this going? I mean, do you think it's a good pick, or should they have screw it, go defense?
No, I don't like the pick at all, actually. I just don't like, not the position value, but I don't like the prospect. I think if you're getting a first-year quarterback at your hands right now, you need more speed at the outside. Give me the guy who could create more separation.
The Raiders had already picked earlier in the first round. Okay. So he's gone. He's gone. All right, Spinks, what do you think, man? I mean, T Higgins, he was, one of the top talents left on a lot of guys' boards.
Yeah, I actually I like the pick, but I actually think what Nate just said makes a lot of sense. You want a guy who can create more separation. Burrow's a great quarterback, as we've all seen, but I think Higgins is probably not the right pick. However, Higgins himself is awesome. 1,200 yards last year, 13 touchdowns. He lost in the national championship game. He comes out of a great system. So I think he'll be good going forward, especially if AJ's healthy. They're going to have the two of them together. And, yeah, Bengals are looking up for the first time in 50 years.
I think him learning under AJ Green is going to be a really good thing because, he's an AJ Green clone, but, a mini AJ Green, if you will. And he's a 50-50 guy. He's going to go up strong for the ball. So learning from him is going to be really good. So I like where they're going for, with the pick, but, with any of these guys, you have to wait and see. All right, next up, number 4, Bama guys, safety, McKinney. Tom, talk to us about this. The Giants,
I was anticipating the Giants would either go after last night. I thought they might go center or guard. The more I thought about it, I thought they would go edge because they let Golden walk. What it looks like, I think they went with McKinney because he's the best available.
Right.
And if you look at the last few draft picks from the Giants, they have spent a first round and a third round on a cornerback. They spent free agent money on signing Bradbury at cornerback. So potentially the secondary could turn into a strength for the Giants, which is going to be something that they might need in the NFC East with Dak Prescott and, Haskins developing in Washington. And we'll see whoever the quarterback is in Philadelphia. That's coming later.
All right, Spinks. I mean, the Cowboys are going to, having to deal with this guy. It would have been better for us, I think, if we would have gotten your LSU guy, Delpit, because, he would have got to Elliott, but I mean, no big deal, no harm, no foul. They could have high-fived and then Elliott could have kept running. This guy can actually tackle.
What am I supposed to say about a guy from Alabama who's gone to the New York Giants? I don't care. Who cares? He's going to get torched. He's going to get lit up. The Cowboys have got that many offensive weapons now that it doesn't matter. He could be Superman, and he's still not going to stop the Cowboys. The juggernaut is coming. Look out.
Yeah. All right. Don't hold back next time. I want you to tell us how you really feel, man. All right. Nate, what's your take on this?
I think it's a great value pick right there. I mean, his biggest knock that he's undersized, but like those Bama defensive backs, they're versatile in the things they can do. They can do all sorts of different things. I mean, it's a perfect value for them.
All right, next up, I'm going to let you run with this Robert Hunt pick, offensive tackle. Nate, this is somebody you wanted to bring up, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Spinksy. Yeah, my bad. Go ahead.
Robert Hunt, another great pickup by the Dolphins. He will now be alongside their first round pick, Austin Jackson, and will protect Tua. So I think having these two absolute monsters of humans in front of Tua is going to be awesome. We all know Tua's had injuries, so to have these two guys there to protect him is actually a really good choice. So I think the Dolphins are actually doing some good things. And I think with them and the Bills, that division is open now, so should be good. How do you feel, Nate? Do you think the Dolphins have really helped out?
Yeah, no, I brought it up earlier. I love what they're doing. They just made a pick with Raekwon Davis actually in the third round to fill that defensive front. Another guy that can play multiple positions. Remember, Brian Flores is the guy they had from New England originally. So he values position flexibility. They're a strong suit at cornerback now. They fed into that powerhouse of a well. They've invested in the offensive line, interior and on the outside. They have the guy they believe there's going to be the quarterback of the future, and they're getting position flexibility. I love what they're doing.
All right. I got to agree, especially you've got your QB. You want to be surrounding him with protection. That's like 101, especially for a young guy. And you want these guys to ideally have the chance to grow together, which I think is really cool and a good way to go. Let's move on down the list, though, man. The next guy that we wanted to focus in on, wide receiver out of Penn State at number 14, KJ Hamler. Nate, I believe you were the one that wanted to bring this guy up. The Broncos are doing some good things, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they pair him up with Jerry Jeudy. I absolutely think Drew Lock absolutely sucks if he cannot produce with the offensive weapons he has around him. They've given him Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton. Now they add KJ Hamler, a home run threat, while signing Melvin Gordon, having Phillip Lindsay. I mean, sky's the limit what they could do. AFC West is the division to watch next year. Pair that up with Mahomes and company and what the Raiders might be able to do.
Yeah, I actually had hopes that this guy was somehow going to make it to the Chiefs. I mean, come on, that's what Mahomes needs, right? Is more speed at wide receiver. But I mean, he is an undersized guy. What is he like? 5'9", 5'10", something like that? Maybe soaking wet, standing on top of somebody, whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to build an offense around him. Well, that's the thing. He's going to be a third.
True.
So, I mean, this guy could just blow the top off of the defense or take the ball to the house. He doesn't have to be a number one.
Tom, what do you think about what the Broncos are doing, man?
They're going for a redundancy at the position. If you said if most teams drafted Jerry Jeudy in the first round, they'd probably be done for wide receiver. But this is obviously thinking, John Elway and the organization, they're obviously seeing, you know what, we need to upgrade the offense. We need to help out our quarterback going forward. And also they're probably looking at it where it's, you know what, we got to outscore the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are the benchmark. They're going to need more firepower.
That's true. That's a good call all around. Spinks, what do you think along those lines?
Yeah, I like it. I think the Broncos have struggled for many years now. They have a ex-quarterback as their general manager, and he couldn't pick a quarterback to save his life. So I think having Drew Lock there at the moment is more stable. I think they've spent a lot of money paying off old contracts at the moment. They went through a phase where they were giving rubbish quarterbacks heaps of money for years. And I think they're finally going to settle on Lock and just give him some offensive weapons. They probably need a little bit more guys in front of him to help to protect him. They've got the young Aussie there, Adam Gotsis too. So I think the Broncos are looking up. Should be a solid 2020.
Well, bouncing it right back to you, man. At number 15, the Falcons. the Cowboys are possibly looking at edge here in a few picks, and the Falcons reach out and they take Marlin Davidson, which I think is a hell of a value. A lot of people had him going towards the end of the first round. This guy's a handful. What do you have on him?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. I like him. Thank you. You threw me under the bus. Thanks for that. Look,
man, that's right.
I really enjoy Marlon Davidson. But this is,
by the way, you owe me $2 for that, Nate. Okay.
Yes, this was a guy that you wanted to talk about. So give me a sec.
All right. Well, actually, let's bounce it over to Nate. Nate, what do you think about this pick? I mean, this guy can get after the QB. I think he's a good value at this spot right here.
Well, what the Falcons want to do is they want to build the strength in which that's the defensive line. They extended Grady Jarrett. They had DeCarson McKinley. They drafted in the first round several years ago. They invested in Dante Fowler. They think pairing him with this guy is going to make a front a la San Francisco. Again, a lot of resources went to that position. That carried into the Super Bowl. They're going to be going after Tom Brady. They're going to be going after Drew Brees. And they're going to be going after Teddy Bridgewater. They want to make sure that for the team.
True enough. Tom, what do you think?
Well, I totally agree with Nate. Just want to make sure the sky wasn't falling.
All right. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm looking around too at this point. Yeah.
And I just think it's, Atlanta is looking at their division saying, not only do we have Drew Brees to worry about, now we got Tom Brady. We have to set up a defense that can go out and at least contain them to keep us in the ball game going forward. So I think that's the reason why. And also they let Vic Beasley go. So they need to get that force on defense going forward.
All right. That makes sense. Moving down the list of guys we're going to talk about. Next is number 19. Tom, we might as well ask you about this. Trayvon Diggs from Bama. He went to the Cowboys. What do you think about this pick?
You know what? I think
don't say CD Lamb, man.
No. I think if the Dallas Cowboys got Baun, I think I would probably have excused myself for the rest of this evening. But it's something where, when you look at the NFC East, is there really a legit standout wide receiver that makes you that you're afraid of on either the Eagles, Giants, or Redskins right now? I don't think so. So it gives them some time.
AJ Green's on the Bengals. You make a good point.
So those are certain things you can look at going forward. But Spinks, this is your team. How do you feel about it?
I like it. We sort of were chatting earlier through Twitter and Discord and stuff about how there was a lot of talent still left there. I was a fan of Ebenezer going. He did go a few picks after, I think. But yeah, very happy. The Cowboys need the extra guy in the backfield. They let Byron Jones walk earlier this year to the Dolphins. So very happy we've gone ahead and taken this guy. It's only going to help us going forward. So we need to be stronger in the backfield. So good pickup. Nate, you are a huge fan of this. How do you feel?
Let me put this in context for your candy asses out there. They were considering Trayvon Diggs at pick number 17 or a trade back option in the first round. This is excellent value. So you take that in your pipe and you smoke it, Tom. You eat that. You see an interception coming your way. Danielle Jones to Trayvon Diggs, pick 6.
I can't believe that I'm actually going to agree with Nate. Tom, I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, after this, I'm definitely hitting the showers. Okay. Because he makes a great point. There in the first, Jerry and crew were considering this guy, but actually he was rated, they were being forced to do the same thing that the Giants were forced to do at offensive tackle. They were going to do at cornerback, and it had that all written all over it. And instead they went ahead and took the higher rated player, much higher rated player. And then they got this guy in the second round. Jerry Jones is doing very, very well right now. I can't believe I'm saying it. I got to give that guy credit.
How much of this, though, is Jerry and how much is actually Mike McCarthy's influence, or is it Stephen Jones? Like, because we don't really see what's sort of going on in the room, is it McCarthy? Because the Cowboys have done some awesome things over the years, but also some really dumb things too.
I have to give Stephen total credit here, because what a lot of people don't realize is the night before the draft, he had his dad's boat towed out to the Bermuda Triangle. So it's been working out really well. So,
Mike McCarthy, if you look at the draft habits, Mike McCarthy, all his tenure in Green Bay, drafted wide receiver a ton in the first 2 rounds, particularly like them in the second round. And he has a thing for Bama defensive backs.
Also what he did, he changed up at defensive tackle, going out and getting McCoy and Poe. So now all of a sudden Dallas has some beef in the middle. It doesn't really matter that Malik left. All right. And then, it reshuffled the whole line. All right, let's move down. The Cowboys made what I think is a really good move. And I tell you what, Jerry Jones is going to be upset, because the Eagles snatched the buzz right out of the room away from the Dallas Cowboys, didn't they, Tom?
Oh, yes. Let's just say someone is hurting tonight, and it's Carson Wentz in the Philadelphia franchise.
I'm just going to laugh, man.
I really feel like the Philadelphia Eagles drafted the college version of Carson Wentz, because you got someone who his team pretty much is able to win when he's on the bench. And, he's hurt. He's been hurt a lot. He was forced to transfer. And this is something where, I think I went to Spinksy on this one. I was like, what, huh? Like I could understand a move like this if there's a new general manager, but this is the same management, same owner, and they're all, and what? Wentz is under contract till 2024?
Yep.
But like, who is angrier now, Aaron Rodgers or Carson Wentz?
Well, that's what I was going to ask Spinksy, man. It's like, okay, Spinksy, are Green Bay fans, remember in the Thor Ragnarok, when Thor gets beat back and forth in the ring and his brother Loki jumps up and says, that's how it feels. Is this what, Packers fans are doing to Eagles fans right now?
I don't know what's worse. They kept the wrong quarterback to start with. I said for years they should have kept Nick Foles. Carson Wentz is not a quarterback. The man's useless. He's always injured. So what they do, they go and sign him to a 5-year extension, $120 million. And now he's got 4 years left, and they bring in Jalen Hurts, who's a backup at best in the second round. It is beautiful. It's the best thing ever. It's so good. Team in your division does something really dumb, like drafting a quarterback 6th overall. Like, it's fantastic.
Well, all right. A lot of people wrong, though.
This wasn't a value pick. This was something that just fell to them. They went up a considerable amount of
10 bases. Moved up 10 bases. Yeah.
Well, now, Nate, what do you think about, what is being said? And, right away, right up front, it wasn't like the next day spin doctoring, is they said, hey, we saw this. It looked like a great value right here. We want to go ahead and put him out there. Plus, we think we can be really creative with our offense and create some special packages for him.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening with a guy that size. This guy is not nearly the size of a Taysom Hill who can take necessarily the contact.
Right.
And I think you draft him because you have ambitions of having him probably start a few games given Carson Wentz's history, but he's by far the most unpolished out of the prospects that are available. That's the problem I have with it. And it wasn't value. This wasn't like they were sitting there at their original spot and it fell to them. They had to move stuff around.
Yeah.
Well, I think if this was a 4th round pick, no one would be complaining. But since it's a 2nd round pick, you kind of, like a Geno Smith flashback you're kind of getting.
I look at it this way. They're in a tight division, whether they want to admit it or not, and they need to get better than the other teams. Have they increased the talent level of what they'll put on the field on game day this coming season, or even the season after that? or possibly the season after that? I say the answer is no.
Yeah, and it's funny because I really liked their first pick, Jalen Reagor, considering the prospects they had on the board. I liked Reagor a lot better than a lot of other people.
Well, wait a minute. Do you like it the same way Spinksy likes this pick? Or do you really like this pick?
Being honest.
I'm so confused. Is it like bad when it's really good, or is it bad?
No, I mean, it was a solid pick. It just isn't.
So this is good.
Lynn. The Saints took Zack Baun in the 3rd round.
All right. Well, let's move on from the Jalen Hurts. It definitely created buzz. There's no doubt about that. Another guy that I thought he dropped pretty far. Tom, why don't you talk about this guy as well, out of Boise State, offensive tackle, Mr. Ezra.
Yeah, I think the astounding fact was Ezra Cleveland was an 11-pound baby.
11-pound baby.
He was born 3 weeks early, so he was a big boy to say the least. I probably anticipated him to go maybe in the 30s or 40s. He did start to slip, which was a little surprising considering the run on tackles that occurred. But I think this is someone going forward where, the Vikings, it looks like a very smart pick that fits into the system. And Ezra Cleveland is ready to step in and protect Kirk Cousins going forward. Now, Nate, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think they've been getting a lot of good value. I mean, they had, with their first pick in the 1st round, they went Justin Jefferson at LSU, guy who played mostly slot. And then they were able to trade back and get some extra picks. And they had a guy they valued in not Blacklock, but Gladney at pick 31. And then, hey, great, they didn't have to reach. I mean, they were having consideration of this guy going in the early 2nd or late 1st. Ezra Cleveland falls right into their laps later in the 2nd round. Great value.
All right, next guy I want to hit. And this is another guy that dropped, and I think he's a good talent. All right, Baylor, wide receiver, Mr. Mims. Spinksy, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I really like Denzel Mims. I believe Nate and I were both talking about him yesterday going earlier. Dude is quick. He's got solid hands. He separates well. He's a touchdown scoring machine. Really like it. Gives the Jets another option on either side. I think going forward, this kid will be scoring a lot of touchdowns in the green and white. So, Nate, I know you're a big fan of him. How do you feel about him being a New York Jet?
Yeah, I think, again, it's great value. If you look at a lot of his tape, he doesn't separate a whole lot. But that was, in my opinion, a different scout brought up that they had such a limited route tree in the Baylor offense that a lot of corners basically sat on his routes. They already knew what he was going after. Ran in the 4.3s and the 40s. Then, again, tore it up with a much more expanded route tree at the Senior Bowl. So therefore,
right.
Okay, we could go ahead and work with this guy. It's a great value for him.
Yeah.
So what's the official position in New York there, Tom?
You know what? I think as of right now, the New York Jets have had a solid draft when you look at their first 2 picks.
Whoa. Seriously. I mean, yeah. Tap the screen. All right, Tom. You're breaking up there, man. You're breaking up.
I think, they went offensive tackle and Becton, who's probably going to be a starting offensive lineman for at least 10 years. And you got Sam Darnold, a weapon, in the 2nd round. And you got someone who I think, like you mentioned before, they have great value. So this is the first time we're like, know what? This is our guy. Let's build around him. They still got Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. So, and also, you have the New England Patriots who, you're going to see who's more powerful now, Darth Vader or the Emperor, because Tom Brady is now in Tampa Bay, and he brought Gronk with him. Yay. So this is something where, this division now seems wide open.
Yeah, wide open. I tend to agree with that 100%. Let's slide it on around again, actually, and let's have somebody put on their cheese hat and get the ball rolling on this with AJ Dillon, Boston College running back. He got drafted by, Cleveland?
Yeah. Must have been. So we all saw yesterday, we all sat here and witnessed Jordan Love get drafted by the Packers in the first round. So what do you do in the second round? You draft a running back. AJ Dillon gets taken by the Green Bay Packers out of Boston College. There's nothing wrong with this kid at all. He is fast, great sidestep. He is electric, carries the football well, great pick. However, you've already got one.
There's one little problem here, isn't there?
Great one. You've got a great running back already. He's made 2 picks, and they are terrible picks. The only picks worse could be the Seattle Seahawks. There's a competition going between Seattle and Green Bay to see who has a worse draft, and it is a magnificent. I love it.
Now, let me ask you this question, though. Is this a Frank Underwood? Is this an FU draft where it's like you're still on our team, but we're letting you know this is your replacement?
I've already got Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones is only in his 3rd year of his 5-year contract. So the kid's only young. He's awesome. I understand some teams want to take a 2-3 quarterbacks there, running backs. Sorry, but I just don't get why you're wasting a pick. Like you wasted your first round pick. He would have sat there all night and got fried over taking Jordan Love in the first round, and then he goes and takes a running back in the second round. Like, try to protect your quarterback or try to get some defense or something. There's 400 guys. Draft someone else.
Yeah, it looked like they were drafting for 2025.
Grandma said it's good to be consistent, right?
Well, you got to remember, this is a different regime than the Packers that we're used to this century. So,
but did they forget who was on the team?
I think so. I think
They do understand that you don't just draft a new team every year, right?
I think that's what it is. He's doing a fantasy football draft. He's drafting a new team every year.
They think it's a redraft league. Oh my God. Okay.
But anyway, I want to talk about a team that I really like what they're doing, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. The way they've been drafted, they think they could win the Super Bowl next year. Everything from signing Phillip Rivers to a limited contract. They went ahead and traded for DeForest Buckner, a proven talent, instead of waiting to go draft a guy, maybe a Kinlaw in the first round. And then they go and get a prototypical Phillip Rivers receiver with Michael Pittman Jr., one of the 6'4" guys who wins a lot of jump balls. And they get him a workhorse running back in Jonathan Taylor, who can contribute.
True. They're making good moves. I agree with you. They're making the kind of moves that it goes. It all boils down to one thing. Does Phillip Rivers have one more year in the sun? I mean, hopefully last year was an aberration where he felt like he was trying to do too much, and they can rein him in and the Colts and let him use the weapons around him. Well, it certainly looks like they're going to give him weapons, doesn't it?
I think with, Phillip Rivers going to the Colts, he's going to be playing indoors half the time. So usually a lot of QBs play a lot better when they're playing in domes consistently. So
dude, you're in SoCal. That's better than indoors, man. I'm here to tell you, it's not a problem.
I think they can actually protect him. Unlike
that's the problem. Yeah, can they protect him? And I think they can.
Yeah, and that's the thing that the offensive line to build around. I mean, I think Taylor could honestly have a 1,500-yard rookie year. It's that
okay. I'm going to put Spinksy on the spot again just because it's so much fun watching his face. I can see him right here. Okay. Kansas City, and this is the last pick I want to talk about in this round. Willie Gay Jr., okay, inside linebacker, Mississippi State. I realize that you get satellite coverage of, the lower states there right in the Gulf. You don't really scout, very far north of that. LSU, Mississippi State, that kind of thing.
3 hours around Baton Rouge. That's what I'm good for.
All right. What do you think about Willie Gay Jr.? I think this is another team, the Chiefs, that is having a very solid draft.
Solid choice here. There was another couple of linebackers on the draft ahead of him, but Willie Gay's probably going 4th or 5th overall. Great selection. I had him. I think we spoke about him yesterday, potentially going in the 1st round. I had him as a 3rd round draft grade. The fact that he fell to the end of the second, I actually really didn't like it. I think defensively they're going to be a lot stronger in 2020. As we know, they are Super Bowl champions, so you don't really want them to have more talent because that is going to hurt everyone else. But I think it's a really good pickup here. So small school guy, Mississippi State. They're a small school, aren't they? Yeah.
All right. As we wind this down and talk a little bit more about this pick, Spinksy, I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to put you on first with the Logan Wilson, Wyoming pick at the top of the third round here next. Okay. Tom, Nate, what do you think about this pick? What do you think about what the Chiefs are doing here? I mean, they won the Super Bowl, and these guys are adding talent.
Yeah, particularly they got guys that fit with them. But particularly in the first round with the Hilaire, they got a guy who's great at catching the football. If you want to flash back a couple of years ago when their offense was truly explosive. I mean, it's explosive now, but it was a different level when they had the Kareem Hunt.
When they had all the white beaters that were still on the team.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man, those guys could fly. I mean,
well, they still have one they signed to an extension.
That's true. That's true.
They looked a different direction sometimes. Anyway, with that being said,
I mean, just quick sidebar. What was really done there? Okay, the player's no longer playing there; he's playing somewhere else. Is this the same thing that the Catholic Church did? I mean, all right, just okay. Hey, he's no good here. We'll move him over there where he can continue. And he can take his victim with him. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So it's
oh man, I think this is whack. I think something needs to be done about it. We're not going to deal with it on this show, but I had to mention it. All right. Anyhow, Tom, what do you think about what the Chiefs are doing, man?
Well, I believe they do have Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator. This isn't the first time he's a defensive coordinator for a defensive championship team. But It's also, you got to look at it like this. Patrick Mahomes, he's a franchise player. He's already, he's won the MVP award. He's won the Super Bowl. If he wins one more, he's in the discussion for one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So, Mahomes is already going into his third year as a starter. He could develop a legacy. Andy Reid, he had this stench on him for not being able to win the big game. He could totally erase that. He could be the NFL equivalent of Joe Torre if things go forward like this. If he has his horse and Patrick Mahomes, he puts the weapons around him. You have New England, which they had their divorce. So this could be something that would lead to the Kansas City Chiefs becoming their glory years. What do you think about it, Spanks?
The Chiefs are certainly drafting well. Having taken Edwards-Helaire in the first round, they're drafting for need, and I think all their needs aren't that much. But it's very early to say, but we could be talking about the Patriots. The Patriots, like the Chiefs being the Patriots of the 2020s. They are that strong and that dominant that I think it's going to take maybe an injury or some kind of hurt to Mahomes to make him not as awesome as he is. Like, this team could be the future of the NFL. We could be witnessing history again. And no one thought that about the Patriots in the early 2000s. We knew they were strong, but the dominance they showed, maybe we're going to witness this again with the Chiefs. It'd be
so
nice.
You're saying he's going to have women problems then?
I believe he went to a massage parlor in Miami. I think that's
there it is. There it is. And the rest, as they say, is history. All right. Absolutely. You know what you're talking about, those guys. I think really it's you're only as good as your competition. I think that's one of the things that made Muhammad Ali so damn good. And as awesome as the Patriots dynasty has been, they weren't really tested during that, except for, I think there was only one team that really gave them problems. Who did they play in the Super Bowl twice and not win against? Who was that?
The New York Giants.
What was it, Spinks? Can you turn the volume up? I couldn't hear you all the way in.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but other than the Giants, they didn't have anybody to sharpen their stone against. Here we have the Chiefs, the Ravens, All right. And the Broncos, I think, that are really going to be going at each other. With an outside shot, you cannot count the Patriots out. They're definitely on the outside looking in, but hey, they got Belichick, so you've got to throw them in, into the mix. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, a whole lot of fun. We got to move on to the third round. The NFL draft is moving on for sure. And again, we're looking at what the Bengals do at the top of each round. Logan Wilson, inside linebacker, Wyoming, as I mentioned earlier. Spinks, what do we got on the man?
Righto. Now listen very carefully, right? Very carefully. This kid had 400 tackles in college. 400 tackles in 3 years. That is unbelievable. That's about 130 a year. 10 interceptions. This kid is a machine. He is huge. He is solid. He is built well. He gets after his man. This guy's a freak. I'm not sure what to say, but in a Bengals uniform, this kid's going to look scary. He's going to actually look like a tiger coming at you. He's so good. Can't wait.
Is he shorter now than when he started his career at the because 400 tackles, man, on the shoulders, boom, boom, boom. You got to wonder if he didn't lose an inch, maybe, or half an inch.
When I saw the stat, I had to look a few times. Like that's insane. Yeah.
Oh man, Nate, you know what it's like to get hit coming over the middle by a linebacker that knows what they're doing. 400 tackles. He's laid out some receivers as well. That's a lot of tackles. That's a lot of hits, isn't it?
Yeah, if you go small school guy, you want a guy with a lot of production, and that's certainly the case with him. Great value pick. I wish I could say the same thing about their second round pick, but definitely a guy who could probably develop contribute in the first couple of years.
All right. Well, all right. Hey, by the way, as we move into the third, of course, we didn't have as much green room time on that, but we know who we were looking at and talking about. So everybody bring up your own local ones. And if you see somebody coming down, jump in and say, hey, you want to talk about that guy. The next one that I want to bring up actually is number 2, the second pick of the third round, Antonio Gibson. Again, right there, I'm going to go to you, Spinks, because wow, I can't believe it. The Redskins, they are having a good draft.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson, he wasn't on many people's radars coming into the combine, and then at the NFL combine just shone. It was an absolute freak. He had coming out of Memphis. This kid is a superstar and will be going places in the NFL. Very happy that the Redskins have him. It's better being the Redskins than being the Giants. But very nice pickup. The kid's got speed, he's got size, he's got talent, he's got a good football IQ. Really, really like this pick. Third round's a good spot. I thought he probably would have dropped a bit more, maybe to the fourth round. So maybe they've reached a tiny bit, but very happy to the Redskins. They're actually building really nicely. So I think between them and the Giants, they're going to be no longer the whipping guys of the NFC East. I think the Eagles are going to be the shittiest team.
Anybody else got anything on Gibson?
Yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion about the guy. I'm not like, wow, this guy's really going to take over or anything like that. I think there's better value out there.
All right. I'm just impressed that the Redskins seem to be actually drafting guys that can help them. Wow. All right. So what's the next pick that we have? Everybody's looking down. Do you have somebody that you want to go on? Spinks.
Yeah.
LSU, Damian Lewis. Okay. Offensive guy.
The Seattle Seahawks are in a competition with the Green Bay Packers to see who can draft the worst team. Okay? There must be some competition going on. There must be drunk or something. Damian Lewis, the guard from LSU, was not a starter for the last 3 years. He has not been a starter. Lloyd Cushenberry is LSU's guard. He was the starting guard. He's the starting center. They've picked up this kid off the bench. Now, I've watched every LSU game for the last 10 years, sometimes multiple times. And this kid doesn't feature very much at all. You know why? Because he's no good. The third round pick on him, the start of the third round. I understand there's things he can do. If the Patriots drafted him, I would question myself because Bill Belichick knows what he is talking about. Whereas the Seahawks draft him, and I laugh. That's their third pick in this draft, and they stuffed up every single one of them. This is a terrible choice, and it makes me so happy. I'm so happy. Seahawks just ruined themselves again. It's great.
Well, at least the Seahawks consistently pick in the 20s, and this is a front office that's been to 2 Super Bowls, so at least they have a little bit of credibility.
Yeah.
Green Bay is only in their second year here, and basically haven't had many draft picks that have really contributed so far. Again, it's been 1 year, but they have contributed to free agency that had an immediate contribution. So it's interesting to say. At least Seattle, you could say, okay, they have a track record of being off the wall and successful. Green Bay, not so much.
Not so much. No, not so much.
Exactly, not so much. All right, Tom, are you looking at anyone?
How about Josh Jones going to the Arizona Cardinals with the 3rd round selection?
Yes, that was the next one. If you were going to bring him up, I would. Well, what a nice drop. Got him in the 3rd round. I think that's a value pick for sure, Tom.
I think it's a value pick, and it also fits a need. They got Kyler Murray as their quarterback going forward. And also, right now, Cardinals had a solid draft. They got Isaiah Simmons on defense, and they got Josh Jones as offensive tackle. So this is something, going forward, they might be able to, maybe make another run out in the NFC. We'll see what happens.
All right. Anybody else got a comment on that one?
Yeah, well, I think you could see, for example, I think Arizona wants to make a big splash. I mean, they traded for DeAndre Hopkins. They go and re-extend the right tackle, and they get great value in the 1st round. And they get a great player fall right into their lap in Isaiah Simmons, and now they go and upgrade the tackle position. Another value pick that falls into their lap.
All right, I got a pick I want to talk about, and I don't know how these son of a bitches do it every freaking year. At pick number 10 of the 3rd round, the New Orleans Saints, Zack Baun, Wisconsin, outside linebacker. How do they do this, man? Nate, I mean, how do you like that pick?
Oh, I love the pick. I would literally, if the talent pool didn't drop so much in the defensive back class after pick 51, after Trayvon Diggs, I was going to bang the table for Zack Baun. He was the top player I had ranked in the beginning of the day, but he had a wee test that went awry at the combine. Didn't even fail the test, but it went. It was
too clean. Yeah.
Too much water. Too much water for him.
Well, he hydrated the night before, whatever. Okay, for those listening, what we mean by that is when you are going to drug test, when you're drug testing, one of the ways to obviate a drug test is just to drink tons and tons of water, so you're peeing all the time, so that when you pee for the sample, it's all diluted, and it needs to have some yellow in it, some natural pee yellow, or it's too diluted. If it's clear urine,
don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't. I'm not saying that's how to get by a drug test, but it will mark in the NFL and in most places as a failed test if you do that. Not to. All right. Well, I like the pick as well. Tom, what do you think about the pick?
I think this is another one. I guess, could this be like a Warren Sapp, with a red flag for a drug test? But Baun, it looks like too, looking at the Saints, they got Cesar Ruiz as their number 2 in their 1st round pick, who's a potential starting center. They got Baun in the 3rd round. So, they're making moves. The Saints are looking, their window might be closing, but, they're getting guys that could come in right away.
I agree.
The Raiders actually made a nice selection. Brian Edwards, the wide receiver from South Carolina. Really like that pick, actually. Great value pick. I had some problems.
If we're going to keep going down the list, I'd like to talk about pick number 12 in the third round, 76th overall.
That's where I was going, man. I was going to ask you. Let's talk about Tom Brady's team.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay have selected Ke'Shawn Vaughn, the running back from Vanderbilt. This guy is a freak. Sorry, I just lost my notes. What happened there?
Well, let's first of all talk about the team and fit. Why this is like a lot better pick than, let's say, what Green Bay did. It's not that Green Bay didn't get a good player, except they already had a player that this guy, is not going to get snaps. In this case, they needed an upgrade at running back. They have good running backs, but that's it. They're just good. That's all they are. This kid is definitely a step up, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is, mate. He had 12 touchdowns and over 1,200 yards in 2019. Sorry. However, it's also his catching ability too. The kid can actually run and be a receiver. So he's more your hybrid that the NFL is looking for these days. The kid can do both, kind of like you Christian McCaffrey's or your Zeke in your play actions. Very good choice. I think Tom Brady and him are going to do wonders together in the next couple of years. So,
well, historically, Tom Brady works well with that type of running back, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, so this should be good. I think the Bucs are on the improve, and obviously they've got a tight window. Let's say, for example, Tom can do 3 years. I think they need to win the Super Bowl in that time for this to be worth it. So I think having him on the side now is going to be awesome.
All right. Tom, we got some activity happening in New York, don't we?
Right now, the Dallas Cowboys selection coming in.
Before we actually get to that, let's talk about the New York Jets. We don't want to get ahead of anything. All right. In New York, they went defensive end, getting Jabari Zuniga from Florida. And again, I think this is something that this is not a bad pick for the Jets. What do you think?
I think, they went offense the first 2 rounds. They want to go defense in round number 3. You got to think if the Jets keep Adams at safety, their defense has already been pretty solid. It can keep on getting better. Right now, at this moment, the best quarterback in the AFC East could be Josh Allen that the Jets go against,
Yeah.
So this is something where, we have a decent defense. We need to upgrade our offense, which I think they did. So it's like, what? Now it's time. Let's get this edge rusher and see how things go.
All right. I mean, I think it's a good move so far. I mean, at this point in the draft, you're getting into the point where it's there's a lot more objectivity over where guys go and where they belong. And with that in mind, I believe that the Raiders had 2 picks that come up right in a row. Nate, I'm going to jump to you because they're not messing around. They want to bolster the wide receiver position, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They got Brian Edwards from South Carolina. They who had injury issues. Great value, great selection. I actually like him a lot better than T Higgins, who went on top of the second round. I mean, this is kind of the area where I thought T Higgins should have been taken. So, and also, Tom, you son of a bitch, you're hiding and sniveling like a coward you are. Neville Gallimore's coming for you. He's taking Daniel Jones and he's going to cut his throat. And then when he gets rid of the ball because he's too afraid, Trayvon Diggs is going to pick it off and take it to the house. And then you're going to get CD Lamb scoring 5 touchdowns against your worthless secondary.
Tom, we either need to get an Eagles guy in here or another Giants guy. Okay.
No, that's okay. It's, you can hate the teams I root for all you want. The Dallas Cowboys are just the poor man's versions of the New York Yankees in the NFL. So I'll just leave it at that.
It looks like the Raiders went 2 wide receivers in a row. Pick 80 and 81. They went Bowden from Kentucky and Brian Edwards from South Carolina.
Yeah,
Did
what
they
do you
not-
got on either one of these guys, Spinks?
I really like Edwards. Edwards is awesome. The fact that Edwards fell this far, that's ridiculous. I think he should have gone second round. I know wide receivers aren't hot property at the moment because there are so many of them out there. But the fact that they took Bowden over Edwards, that's a
Well, he's a red zone target guy, right?
yeah. And they made a statement with him. I just don't see why you wouldn't have taken Edwards first. Of the two of them, Edwards is better. So you make a statement by taking Edwards first. You've got 2 picks, but you took Bowden first, and they've specifically done that, and I'm not sure why.
Usually that's a contract thing.
It could be too, but don't you pay the same if it's in the same round?
I don't know the answer to that. Don't
But
know
the
the
Cowboys
answer to that.
just drafted.
We'll ask Nate, and if he doesn't know, we'll blame it on him.
True. But the Cowboys have just drafted Neville Gallimore, and I don't actually like this pick. Look, I know we need it. I think it's a pick of need. However, he had 50 tackles in 2018. He had 70 tackles in 2019. It's always hard to sort of put stats and figures against a tackle because you're more likely to hold your man up instead of actually making a tackle, if that makes sense. But I think he lacks the length and the size and that first punch, that initial first sort of punch that you have. So I actually had him with a 4th round grade. I kind of wish the Cowboys hadn't have taken him here. As you know, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. I think the first couple of picks that we made were awesome. I am happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think this was the right pick for us at this time. I know it was what we needed, but this guy might not be the guy we actually need going forward. Honestly, happy to be wrong. So how do you feel, Nate? You seem to be our Cowboys resident. How do you feel?
Well, as I was calmly explaining to Tom McAllister, that this was an excellent pick. I think they had a guy who didn't produce probably as much as they would have liked, but this is kind of the time of the draft where you pick those kind of athletes that probably could fit into the scheme. They definitely want to get bigger in the middle, and they've invested in those guys. Interesting that they go defensive tackle early again. I think this new administration is not high on Tristan Thompson.
That's what I'm thinking right there. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have to give Jerry Jones and crew credit for moving on from Taco Charlton. They did not stretch that out and have that roster position hung up and waste snaps on him anymore. They said, hey, this isn't working out.
I mean, Tristan Hill. I mean, I'm sorry. I said Tristan Thompson, the basketball player.
I knew who you were talking about. Okay. Yeah, I was actually looking him up right here. I mean, they have him buried on the depth chart right now, Tristan Hill. They're not pleased with his work ethic and the way that he came to play. Well, I won't say his work ethic. I'll say that his effort on every snap, it just wasn't there. All right. Mentally, physically, the whole 9. He's not at a level on a consistent basis that they want. So I think this pick is definitely a slap in the face of that guy. Yeah. And he's going to have a little time to do something about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's only going to be going into his second year. But again, an example of the difference between this draft and draft years of prior, Marinelli had his guys. I mean, we reached in the draft for Taco Charlton because he was a Marinelli guy. Same thing with Tristan again this year, where we reached for guys. And instead this year, we went with best player available. When you have the 6th best player on your board available at pick 17, you make the pick.
And it's been a better result. Absolutely, I agree with you. But again, I have to go back to Jerry Jones, which is what you were talking about as well. I like the fact that he's willing to admit a mistake much earlier than he was before. And I wrote an article not that long ago about there's a leadership problem in Dallas because Jerry Jones would not hold players accountable. He was a player's owner. And now here, all of a sudden, he's going like, wow, man, you're gone. You're out of here. That filters down to the locker room quickly. And right now, along the defensive line, you think Tristan Hill isn't paying attention? He saw what happened to Taco Charlton, right?
Yeah, you look at
Absolutely. Well, Tom, at least you're not having to hear CD Lamb chants right now. What do you think about the pick?
This is something where, where's the sizzle? Where's the sizzle from Jerry Jones? He usually goes out, isn't there someone who like maybe redshirted a year or something, horrific knee injury who they're trying to move forward, some type of risk reward. I'm a little disappointed. I'm looking for the Jerry Jones pick where I'm like, man, that's gonna blow up in his face. So far I haven't. I was expecting him to, Jalen Hurts. This might have been, if the Cowboys pick Jalen Hurts now, it might be a little bit reasonable than where the Eagles picked him, but it definitely would have that sizzle, and it'll be sending that message to Dak Prescott. You know what? You don't like our contract. We're ready to move on.
Nate, do you know what actually happened with Taco? Because Taco was okay coming out of college, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden he got to the Cowboys and just
he had one good year. Okay,
yeah.
He had one. Understand that he was a late bloomer. Had one good year. Went to the Cowboys, and then never could get consistent.
But is that
the Dolphins gave him every chance to shine.
So was that a Cowboys thing, or was it a Taco thing, or like did we just not treat him the right way?
Did he blow up and just with in Miami, has he blown up and like been like, wow, a first round draft pick? No. I mean, he is what he is. He's going to have a career in the NFL. And at one point, he may actually put it together. There are some guys that a little bit later, they actually do put it together. It takes them a while. I think he may be one of those, okay? Yeah. But the Cowboys caught on a salary cap crunch, could not afford to pay him, keep him at a first-rounder's salary. They had to cut bait and run, all right? So that's just the way that is. All right. Tom, I got to agree with you, man. It's got to be a little disappointing. But I have to say, insofar as the New York Giants, Nate, Spinks, don't you agree as well? I mean, the Giants, it's not like at the Eagles, we're looking and smiling and everything, okay? But with the Giants, we're not doing that. And with the Redskins, you're looking going, ooh, wow, okay, right?
I think with the Redskins, they actually finally got a new GM. So you got to wonder if, they went with Chase Young, who was probably the best player available in the draft. There was no head scratchers there. They didn't reach for the quarterback. And I think that's why if the Redskins decided to go with Tua or trade out of it, that's when I think you would have seen a cascade of trades.
Right.
3, 4 going forward. But since they didn't do that, everything kind of lined up till about pick 15. For the Giants, they got a starting tackle. He might not be a Pro Bowler, he might not be a Hall of Famer, but if they just get a starting tackle, and if they put him on the right side with Zietler or the left side with Will Hernandez, that solidifies it. Now I'm trying to keep my eye going forward. I thought they might try to trade down, but apparently Gettleman said since McKinney was available that, you know what, we're going to take this guy. He's a starting safety. They shore up that secondary. So this is where the Giants have a very solid, at least level in the defense. Usually the Giants are known for having that great pass rush.
Right.
That if that secondary is able to step up, and they got, Jabril Peppers is the most experienced one. And I think you have about 3 of those guys will be on their maybe second year of their deal.
Well, amping that offensive line allows Saquon Barkley to be more effective. And that just starts the dominoes falling, doesn't it?
Yes. I think with, if you have a weak defense and then you can run a ball control offense, it's just the one thing with Saquon Barkley, one of his big criticisms was basically he'd be the home run hitter, where he'd have a lot of 1-2 yard gains and you have the 168 yard game. I think for consistency, they would want Barkley to have a lot more 4 or 5 yard carries. You have to wonder, he had a great rookie year and he was hurt. And for a decent amount of 2019,
isn't that the Barry Sanders psych out, where they say, oh, well, he was a great runner, but he didn't really help his team win because he couldn't get the consistent yards. That wasn't any. That was the one knock. Well, that and he didn't block, period, ever.
Well, I think the difference is Saquon Barkley is a threat in the passing game, while
Right.
Barry Sanders was not. I think that's one, and it's also still relatively early.
You could toss him a 1-yard pass. That made him a threat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also, Barkley is still young in his career. You got to see, what builds around him. Also, the league was more of a run-first league back then.
Yes.
And there's a more premium at running backs. And also, Barry Sanders walked away at the top of his game. He didn't regress. So I think with Barkley, you got to wonder, one, if he's healthy going forward. Two, they did get that offensive line, because you got to think, if he put up these numbers with a subpar offensive line, just imagine what he can do with an average offensive line.
And he's not been overused.
No,
So,
I really felt, what the Giants should have done. I really felt a lot of their decisions last year were based off pressure on the coach and the GM. And they made the decision to eliminate the coach, but they kept the GM, Dave Gettleman. You got to see if he's on the hot seat. It looks like you can tell he has a plan in the offseason. He's focused on addressing the defensive side of the ball. He got Bradbury at cornerback. He got Martinez at linebacker. They could use another edge rusher.
Right.
I think defensive tackle, there's a lot of depth there for the Giants. That's one of their strongest positions. They have Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson. You have BJ Hill come in and with a 3-4. They're more defensive tackle fronts. And also you got.
And by the way, I'm glad that they're, the Giants need to play a 3-4. All right. They need to play that on defense. All right. That is the Giants D. I don't want to see them in a 4-3 ever. I just don't want to see it.
Flashbacks of Lawrence Taylor or the flashbacks of Michael Strahan?
Both.
Right.
Okay. Absolutely both. Nate, let me ask you this real quick with the Cowboys there, defensive tackle. Okay. That they took right here. That's a straight 3-tech draft pick. But what they're really hoping is that both Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory will come off the suspension list, which takes care of their edge problems. Aldon Smith, more of a strong side guy, more like a Lawrence kind of guy, DeMarcus Lawrence. And then Gregory, just, pure speed off the edge. With that being said, Gerald McCoy, Poe, doesn't that really take care of their issues up front?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the situation that they're going to have to wait and hope for a guy who hasn't played football in 4 years and a guy who basically hasn't played in about a year and a half. I mean,
or made it through a full season without getting suspended the 3 years before that. Okay.
Right. I mean, Randy Gregory, I don't think has yet played a 16-game season in his entire career. So, I mean, that's fool's gold.
But hold on, though. It's been pot that's got him in trouble, and now pot is decriminalized. They'll just fine the hell out of you. You can still play.
Yeah, I mean, but with that being said, the guy hasn't proven anything yet that you're going to have confidence for dependability. Well, Aldon Smith hasn't played.
True.
I mean,
as far as dependability, but he has proven that he can get off, that he does have the skill set.
Yeah.
And he is a good worker, et cetera, like that, so it's interesting, but I agree with you. It's a lot of questions, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can't obviously have confidence in that position. Obviously you're hoping to get Aldon Smith even at 80%. You get Aldon Smith at 80% of what he was, you're getting like an 80%.
Oh yeah. That would be enough. I agree. But hopefully we'll only get like 50% of him off the field. Okay. And that may be too much. All right. Spinks, there's something that I've been actually waiting to ask you since this draft started. And that's, I'd like your take on Lloyd Cushenberry III out of LSU. Okay. And also, how can this guy still be available after the backup center had already been taken? All right. I can't wrap my head around that. Okay.
I think the Seahawks need to ring the Broncos and ask them how to draft, because the Seahawks, the 69th overall pick, took Damian Lewis, and Damian Lewis is the backup guard to Lloyd Cushenberry III. So,
you said it better than me, man. Well done.
Fast forward to pick number 83. and the Denver Broncos have taken Lloyd Cushenberry III as their pick, and he is a freak. This guy's got strong hands. He's solid in the middle. Uses his hands well. He pushes his man back. He's former wrestling champion. The kid's got skills, and Seattle overlooked this guy to take his backup in Damian Lewis. I can't fathom what is going on with the Seahawks at the moment. I don't know whether they're tanking for Tua or they're tanking for what's his name?
Lawrence.
Lawrence, thank you. Shit, taking to Lawrence. They seem to be trying to screw themselves over and over again. But the Broncos once again have done really well. I think this has been of the top. If you had to pick 5 teams who have drafted exceptionally, the Broncos are up there, and that's hard to say.
They're standing out. They're standing out. Nate, do you agree that Lord Cushenberry III is a good fit? They currently have a guy that is a UDFA starting at center.
Yeah, I don't know. That just looked wrong coming out of your mouth with your Charlie Manson beard. Anyway, yeah, I think the Broncos, you have to look at who they're going to be playing against twice a year. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that just won the Super Bowl, explosive on offense. They're going to have Bradley Chubb come back. Bradley Chubb. Yeah, the edge rusher who was out for the season. They pair him up with Von Miller. Vic Fangio, always great with defenses. Now they're investing the resources on the outside. They're making it impossible for the quarterback to fail.
Yeah, they really are. Or they're definitely going to be laying the blame on him. You got to hope that he doesn't have a sophomore bomb, because I think you nailed it. Elway has done a heck of a job transitioning the team to support the QB at this point. Would you agree with that, Tom?
I totally agree. I think, after looking at this pick, if you said, just looking, all right, the Broncos got Judy at wideout in the first round. You got Cushenberry now. You know what? That's a pretty solid draft just with those 2 picks. You get a threat outside. You get, a potential starting center going forward. And like you mentioned, you got Von Miller, who's probably one of the best pass rushers in the league. If you get Bradley Chubb to come back, you got a lethal 1-2 combo with the pass rush. There wasn't any, I think, legitimate pass rusher there. But also, if you're going to win the AFC West, you're going to have to put up points. The Raiders are going to be throwing the ball. The Kansas City Chiefs got Mahomes. Andy Reid just keeps on getting more offense. And this is something where, it feels like the offense that gets stopped the most will be the one that loses in the AFC West the most in 2020.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. That's a good take on that. Well, if Joshua was here, we would be talking about the Rams pick with Terrell Lewis. They actually didn't do bad in the second round either. But instead of talking about the Bama backer, Nate, I want to bounce down to you, because how does the Utah safety Julian Blackmon fit in with what you were talking about earlier in the second round with what the Colts are doing? Is this adding to this Phillip Rivers support staff that's going to, help them come playoff time?
Well, you take a look at the veteran players that were rumored to be shopped before the draft. You look at one of those guys was Malik Hooker, safety, who was one of my top prospects the year he came out. But I think it's replenishing that pool. They want to have star players at every position in the secondary. For instance, added Buckner. They have the linebacker who was drafted several years ago that fell to them in the second round. So they're preparing for a Patrick Mahomes showdown potentially in the playoffs.
You have to. If you're in the AFC and you're not thinking about the Chiefs, then you're not really thinking about what you're going to do in the playoffs. You're not really thinking about getting to the Super Bowl, are you, Tom?
This is going to be, right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're the best team in the NFL. They got the Super Bowl championship. They got the number one, if not number two quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, who's very young. I think it's been a long time since there's been an MVP quarterback to win the Super Bowl so quickly. So you got to wonder, is there going to be a defense out there that gives the blueprint for beating the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes? Until that blueprint is found, you got to be like, all right, we got to put up points. And a lot of times with the way the Chiefs played, they're such a deadly, high-powered offense that no lead is safe against the Chiefs,
Right.
which is something very, very scary. And I don't see the big bad defense coming after them from the AFC right now.
All right. What I find refreshing about this, and Nate, I'd like to get your take on this for sure, is we're sitting here talking during the NFL draft, and we're talking about how AFC teams are going to have to build in order to face the best team in the AFC that's going to be that for a while. And we're not saying things like, well, as long as Belichick has Brady going and can get Brady the weapons again this season, and then going somewhere down that road. It has been how many years we have had this conversation, and nothing but respect for the guys, but isn't a little bit refreshing sitting here talking about this instead?
Yeah, if anything, it's great for the ecosystem of football. I mean, look at the ways you're going to beat Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you're probably going to have to get a decent edge rush, or in the Colts case, they're going to want to bring it from the interior. That's how you throw a quarterback off of rhythm. On top of that, I mean, teams are going to have to try to not only make the Chiefs have long prevailed drives like you saw in the Super Bowl with the 49ers, except they ran out of gas. Whereas teams are going to try to match up with them with fire while trying to make them drive the length of the field. That's how you beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the Ravens came the closest to showing how to do it, and I think that is their biggest matchup. And with that in mind, actually, Tom, I'd like to ask you, the Ravens so far, you don't hear a lot about, wow, the Ravens draft is going fantastic, XYZ, but they're not doing too badly themselves, are they?
I think with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson had his breakout year, and you got to wonder if, the league is like, know what, let's take a look back. Let's take a look at some film. Let's see what we can do going forward. Because like we said before, it's a copycat league. You just need that one coach to come up. Remember when the Wildcat was supposed to take out
Oh,
the
yeah.
New England Patriots, and I think most high school coaches don't try that right now. So with Baltimore, they still got the Steelers in their division. You got to wonder if they have a little more functionality. The Cleveland Browns are the Cleveland Browns. So it seems like they could dominate their division for a while. So that means they at least get one home game going forward. And, with the Ravens, the Ravens are historically a defensive team. You got to wonder if the Ravens are going to be like, do we get more weapons for Lamar Jackson, or do we build up the defense that has brought us 2 previous Super Bowl championships?
So Spinks, what do you think? Do you think that like the book is out on Jackson, or do you think like, all right, the book was already out on Jackson from his rookie season, the first year that he got to play, and last season, nobody could really stop him. That the Ravens seem to know that their own running game complements his running game. They went out and got a running back in this draft that should help them. And then they also know that their defense is key, that their defense has to be suffocating. And here they are supplementing, their D. What do you think about that, Spinks?
The defense has always been strong. It's kind of a Ravens thing. They've always had that there. But having a quarterback who can run is something we don't always see these days. Quarterbacks are more likely to throw the football away. You see it, like the best quarterbacks don't always run. Aaron Rodgers would never run forward ever. Tom Brady never runs forward ever. So I think a guy like that is an anomaly. And to have a guy like him, you don't expect it. So obviously you expect it now because you've seen it
Right.
so often, but you don't always expect a guy like that to run. So I think, Tom, how do you think, mate?
I feel like the question you need to answer, I think there's a difference between a mobile quarterback and a run first quarterback. And I think the difference is, a mobile quarterback, the play can be a designed pass play, but if no one's open, they could scramble and pick up the first down. A run first one was someone more like the RG3 Tim Tebow type, where there's a design run for the quarterback where, that style of play, you just need to lose one step and then the defense catches up with you. So I think the league is switching more to, mobile quarterbacks, with the read pass option that's becoming very popular. It gives a lot more options than, let's say, a spread offense. I think most NFL defenses would match up very well with a spread offense because you just need to find, that one weakness and then come from that. There's so many different ways you can do it. If you match up well with those wide receivers and there's limited route trees you can run with that. So I definitely think, though, you need to be able to pass the ball. And I think going forward, mobility is a key thing you're going to be looking for quarterbacks where, you're going to find that happy little balance, because I still think the biggest threat to deal with is a mobile quarterback. Because what's more frustrating than, having the opposing quarterback, in the pocket, the quarterback's dancing around, and he's able to scamper off for 7 yards to convert a 3rd and 5. Is there anything more deflating than that in the NFL?
I think more important than that is it's the Tony Romo effect. It's the same thing that they do in Seattle with Wilson. When you have a mobile quarterback, you can have a shitty offensive line. And more importantly, you can have an offensive line that you don't have to pay as much. And in the salary cap era, you can't have big contracts everywhere. So a mobile quarterback allows you to take some risk on that offensive line.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how you guys feel. I'm going to ask you, Nate. I'd be scared to pay a quarterback 25 or 30 million, and he's all of a sudden going to not be able to throw and take off and then get snapped by the linebacker. Or quarterbacks aren't built to be tackled as such. So I'd be scared to pay a guy so much money for him to take off and get snapped by a linebacker or a defensive tackle or whatever. I wouldn't want to pay a guy that much money to be throwing himself in harm's way. You pay your offensive line to protect him. They stand in front of you to protect you. I don't want him to be in front of that line and get snapped. How do you feel, Nate? Should you be paying a guy that much money?
Lamar Jackson, I personally don't think that model is going to be a long-term model for sustaining a quarterback in the league. With that being said, his success with that model is going to come down to, can they play from behind? Last year, they consistently got up.
I agree.
And then they laid on you, and then they just took the clock away from you, and they were up 14-0, and when you could just devastate someone running the football. Conversely, in the playoffs against Tennessee, they went down 14-0, and then they panicked. Instead of consistently playing their game plan, they felt the need to try to throw the ball down the field, and that's where it got exposed. If the Ravens can find a model to be able to play from behind with sustaining the amount of offense, that's going to be a successful model.
Well, they are, and people forget that. You nailed it, Nate. They forget that they are a power running team. Okay, they are a power running team. So that is what the weakness of a power running team is playing from behind. You were going to mention something, Tom?
I was going to say, could Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes be the new Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning?
Oh yeah, for a while, definitely, yeah. But I think Nate is right, and Spinksy too, and that Jackson is an extreme. Okay, whereas Mahomes is a mobile quarterback, but he does not look to run. He looks to move to pass. Whereas Jackson, hey man, he's looking to make a fool of your ass 20 yards downfield. So that's an entirely different thing. Well, hey, let's move on down the draft a little bit. And actually, there's something good going on. I think in Buffalo, they went running back again. They've definitely moved well past the shady years, if you will. But running back, Singletary was a guy that had a lot of promise, but, then the injury situation, right? They needed running back. How do you like this one, Spinks?
Zack Moss has been taken by the Buffalo at pick number 86, and Zack Moss is awesome. This kid is a superstar. He's got speed. He's got skill. He's got a good step on him. Handles the football really well. He's not much of a pass catcher as such, but I'm sure you can learn that going forward.
That's because you can throw the ball over him. Okay, I mean, he's only 5'9", dude, but he's not a little guy. He's like 2 2.25, something like that.
Yeah, but he's also a solid unit too. Like, what is he? 5'9", 5'10", but about 220 pounds. He's good.
He's a solid guy. He's a solid soldier. Nate, what do you think about this pick?
Listen, Buffalo's model, I think, is quite similar to Baltimore. You have a quarterback so far in Josh Allen, who's basically a poor man's Lamar Jackson. He's more of an athlete than he is quarterback.
Very poor.
So
I agree.
I think if you're going to design an offense for sustainability in Buffalo so far this year, you can't depend on Josh Allen throwing the football. I'd get something going similar to what Baltimore's doing. Have like a pair of running backs, cycle them in, and get your quarterback involved in the running game.
I don't. Well, hold on real quick, Nate. I don't know if you're remembering, but I think the closest to Josh Allen, the closest comparison, really, if you roll it back a little bit, is Randall Cunningham.
No, he wishes he could be Randall Cunningham.
I mean, that's his upside. That's his upside. But I think that's the type of player that he can be.
Now, my question is, though, did the Buffalo Bills, was the season an aberration where everything went right for him in 2019 and they'll take, drop down in 2020? Spinks, how do you feel about it?
I'm gonna admit something. I was on my phone. I missed what you said. I'm so sorry.
All right. My question was, the Buffalo Bills, was it an aberration in 2019 where it's like, everything went great? It's their one playoff appearance, but are they going to go downhill in 2020?
I think it's probably their division to lose. I think with Tom Brady moving on, I think the Dolphins have drafted so well. The Dolphins have drafted extremely well this year. They've got Tua. They'll protect him up front. They've got a good running back now. They've got a good system there. The Dolphins are a good side, but it's probably still the Bills a division to lose. I think I've watched the Bills Mafia smash tables for 20 years, and I love it. I love seeing a guy get picked up and thrown through a table. It's fantastic. So I want the Bills to do well for that. Just the fans, and they're so nuts. Like they are crazy. They're like the Raiders of the 80s. They're like, Bills fans are mental. So I want to see them do really well for that. However, it's probably the Dolphins now. I probably have the edge in that division. Just like in the NFC East, it's the Cowboys and there's everyone else. That's how I see it.
When you look at Buffalo, I just can't trust them. If you look at their roster, you'd say, yeah, they're going to be the motherfuckers that are going to take the next step. But I just can't trust that Lamar Jackson with baby powder on his face. Man, the guy, I just do not think this guy is going to be a legitimate starting quarterback in the league. I can legitimately see the Patriots getting superior quarterback play in 2020 than the Buffalo Bills. Therefore, I give them the slight edge.
All right. Well, moving on, the next pick that I wanted to hit out is actually, and some guys here, and how are the Cleveland Browns doing in this draft? Because here they took defensive tackle out of Missouri. I figured you'd know about him, Spinksy, being down there in Missouri, Jordan Elliott. All right. I mean, I actually know a little bit about this guy. what I liked about him is he's a guy that from the inside, I look at him and say, wow, this is an anti-Tom Brady guy because he gets pressure right up the middle. He can actually collapse that pocket a little bit and make some negative plays in the running game. I like him. I just don't know what his upside, what his total upside is. I actually see him more, even though he can rush the passer, I don't see him as a 3-down player. What about you?
Not really a 3-down guy, no. Certainly come in scary prospect. I think he's really strong. However, I can't see him as a full 3-down man. I think he does really well. However, he gets his hand in the dirt. He gets after his man really well. He sees the football like no one else. I probably had him going late second round. So the fact that he's been picked up now is a great choice. They've done really well here. And he's going to scare Tom Brady, and I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel there. All right. Nate, what do you think about this guy?
I think he was a guy who was in consideration in round 2. So you get him in a round later. I think it's great value. I mean, we're playing the value game here, a guy who can contribute probably right away. But good Lord, speaking of what used to be the Cleveland Browns, we were talking about the Baltimore Ravens a little bit ago. They've had themselves a draft. Justin Matabuke, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M, falls to them in the 3rd round. And then they add another part of their strength with J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd round. Woo-wee!
Woo! Let me ask you this question. Is Ohio State University now running back university?
Yes.
Yeah. USC can just, send the trophy up.
Well, no, O.J. Simpson takes the cake forever. I mean, O.J.'s the absolute god. Playing him to your alma mater. You are running back university. You know why? Do you want to disagree with O.J.? Do you really want to play that game?
No, he's out now. Okay. All right. And he does carry knife. I'm just saying. All right. Now, I've actually been waiting to talk about this team and who they're picking and who they're not picking. So we can actually, cover quite a few of their guys if you want to hang here a little bit. And I'm talking about the Belichickian approach to drafting and the New England Patriots. We all know that the team is now a little bit different. There was some of us who thought all along that he liked the QB he had on the team all along. I thought that he was going to be drafting a guy. Didn't really work out that way, but he is drafting some guys. He just added a tight end here. Spinksy, can you tell us a little bit about Devin Asalasi?
I can, yes. I thought you were going to talk about their last pick, Anthony Jennings. But if we're going to talk tight end, I can.
Well,
yes.
Actually, we could go with Jennings. I mean, they're both in this round. They're going boom, boom right here,
Yeah, they've taken Alabama's Anthony Jennings. Jennings is a talent. I really like this guy. I had him going in the 2nd round. However, he can get a bit lost in the backfield at times. I find he knows what he's doing, but he can't quite execute it just yet. And I think being in a system like the Patriots, he will shine soon. So I think Anthony Jennings was a great choice, but they've just picked up a tight end, haven't they?
Yeah, they've done that. And that's what I agree. This, he has limitations, but Belichick is a genius at tweaking the scheme to obviate those limitations on the players. He puts them in position to do a good thing. And this guy is a great linebacker size too, isn't he?
And Asai? Yes.
Anthony Jennings, man. And he can cover the guys in the passing game as well, right?
He sure can. He's got great vision. He sees the football really well. He gets after his man. I just find at times he can be too far forward. So if your quarterback looks to throw over his head, he can be sort of sort of stuck in that motion if he goes forward or he comes backwards. So I think he struggles a bit in that sense. But the Patriots have always taken the Patriots draft has been weird. They've taken some guys.
It's always weird, man.
They've taken guys in the 5th or 6th round. They've taken them in the 7th, like in the 2nd. So it's a bit hard to sort of see what the Patriots are thinking, but you can never accuse them of doing something wrong because they're awesome. So
the only thing that they don't do that well is first round picks.
Yeah.
They just don't do, that's why I think that's one of the main reasons he trades out. Plus, his philosophy is he wants a bunch of picks because he knows it's a crapshoot.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it looks like it's much harder to draft when you're drafting at 30 to 32 every year, as opposed if you're drafting where the New York Giants typically draft in the top 5. So
well, that's why the Chiefs aren't getting ragged for taking a running back in the first round, because it's the last pick in the first round, and that doesn't really count, right?
Yeah, different draft board at that time. You have completely different players. It's very rare. There's a possibility you have someone as a first round grade at that pick.
Well, what do you think about the Patriots board so far? What they've done here? They went safety, Nate. Then they went linebacker. Then edge with Jennings, and then back, and now they got tight end. And everybody knows they need a tight end, and this guy is a pretty interesting choice, I think.
Well, the funny thing is, if this was Jacksonville with the exact same pick, with the exact same board, you'd say, "What the fuck are they doing?"
True enough.
But the New England Patriots have developed that reputation that they're always going unconventional. They're like the Seattle Seahawks, but it works. Somehow.
Developed your ass. They earned it.
Yeah. They earned that reputation. So, I mean, I'm never going to critique a Patriots draft because it's not the way I see things, but it works.
No. And that's an honest assessment. Tom, where are you on them?
I really feel I want to take a look and analyze the first round picks, the second round picks, and see which ones are more successful. Because I have a feeling there's a lot of franchises that have more success drafting in the second round than they do the first now. For whatever reason, whether it's they match up their need with the quality player, whether they reach more in the first round, or maybe they just stuck at talent, or it is a crapshoot, or since you're a second round pick, there's lower expectations. But I do think there are several franchises that draft better in the second round. And I think maybe the New England Patriots could be one of those teams where they realize this, where it's like, you know what, let's try this and keep it going forward. Let's go quantity over quality, and also too, they usually, they develop the tight ends, but also they've had their quarterback for the last 20 years. So now you got to wonder, all right, I think a lot of people are wondering, are they going to go and grab a quarterback? Jacob Eason is still on the board. Jake Fromm's still on the board.
Tom, but they did not ignore the quarterback position. They still developed QBs over that time. So it's not like they just said, okay, we don't have to worry about that.
But it's also, too, this is the first time where they're not developing a backup. They're developing a starter, which I think are two totally different things. And also, whether you like it or not, the person's replacing a legend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another aspect of that from what they're coming at, when I look at the draft, they went with Kyle Duggar as safety. Now, Belichick has been trying for years to, he wants that 6-foot+ safety back there. He got the guy from Seattle. What was his name? Obi Melifonwu. He was like 6'2", 6'3". He's been wanting to develop that guy. And it seems like he finally got that guy that he's been looking for there in round 2. Then he comes down later in line 2, adds another linebacker, which, he needs that on a consistent base. He knew that his defense needed to get better this year. Anthony Jennings from the edge, you got to love that. And then here at tight end, he's bringing a guy that's one of these, he's kind of a toolbox guy. Wouldn't you say that, Spinks, at tight end?
I really like him. Yeah. this is a pretty good choice here. There's still a lot of tight ends on the board, so I'm kind of surprised they went with him. To be honest with you, because Cole Komet was the first one to go off the board, but Devin Duvernay. Oh, sorry, Duvernay. I've just got the wrong pick. Sorry. In a second here, yeah, they've got a tight end here, and I like the pick itself. However, I think there was better guys out there. So, but once again,
Well, who did you like better than that?
Well, I think who's still left on the board tight end wise? You've still got, because Cole Komet, I think it's the only tight end that's actually gone. I think all the rest are still there, aren't they?
Yeah. Komet's gone, right?
Yeah. Just give me a second while I find this here. I'm sorry for this delay.
That's quite all right.
Yeah, look, I like Albert O from Missouri. I like Hopkins from Purdue. I like Charlie Tonamapia from Portland. Chase Allen's still there.
Right.
Jared Pinkney. There's still a lot of good tight ends out there. And look, and my boy Thaddeus Moss is still there, Randy's son. So I'm very surprised that they went with this pick. However, I think it's a good pick. Like we said earlier, you're not going to doubt anything that the Patriots do. He's obviously got his reasons. He took a guy in the second round that I wouldn't have taken as an undrafted free agent. So I don't want to argue with him, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to say anything against Belichick because chances are you're going to look like an idiot later, right?
Exactly right, yes.
So it's like, okay, whatever, moving on. Next, nothing to see here. Move along. All right.
I did 370 draft cards and I missed 2 guys in the first round. So I know
because of who? Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's actually bounce back up just a little bit. Right before they took the tight end there from UCLA, which my wife is going to be really happy to hear about. UCLA grad. All right. Got you, Kati. Okay. But oh yeah, man, come on, you got to do that. You got, give the shout out. You got Jonathan Grenard, Florida outside linebacker, went to the Houston Texans. And let's talk about the Houston Texans draft. Is this another Frank Underwood draft for them? Because everything goes back to the Hopkins trade. I mean, everything they do in this draft goes back to the Hopkins trade, right?
I think the Texans have drafted okay. I think it's a weird situation when your head coach is your GM, and I think he's made some terrible choices since Christmas up until now. He's made some terrible choices. They had no first round pick. They traded away their best.
Well, that's it, Spinksy. Stop right there, man. That's my point, and that's what I wanted to drive at. It's a crappy draft because they don't have a first-round pick, and they don't have the best wide receiver in the NFL anymore either, do they?
He's the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you trade him away for peanuts. You guys remember that story when you were growing up about Jack and the Beanstalk?
Who could be that stupid, you're wondering, right?
Yeah. So the guy they've taken is an edge rusher from Florida. He ran a 4.87 40. The kid is pretty quick. 6'3", 263 pound. He's got a huge wingspan. He was great with Florida the last couple of years. I like the pick. I think it's probably a bit too early. I probably had him as a 4th round pick, but they've taken him with the 26th pick of the 3rd round. The kid's strong, hand in the dirt. He's fast. He's athletic. I just think they probably reached a bit far here, but
I like the 2nd round pick with Ross Blaylock better. What about you? Blakelock.
Yeah, I like him too. I think that was probably the better pick. There was a chance he could have gone 1st round, and that was a reach up, I think. But the fact that he fell to them in the 2nd, that's awesome. But this guy, I'm not really sure about that. To be honest with you, I would have gone with someone else. There's still a lot of good edge talent out there, and we're almost what are we 7 picks left in the 3rd round? I think there's probably more room to take someone else. So not really sure about this one.
All right. What about you, Nate? I mean, Is it the fact that there's no first round and Hopkins is gone, or is it like, all right, these guys are pretty good. They're trying to replace, the guy they lost 2 seasons ago still.
Well, I mean, they
Preseason.
gave away Hopkins, and then they replaced him with a lot of people with a lot of injury value. You take a look at Brandon Cooks, who had concussion problems, and with the Rams, who were absolutely desperate to get rid of him, and they give up a second-round pick for him, and they're depending on Will.
And the contract, his contract, remember that?
Yeah, his contract, who they say they're getting a good benefit for it, but that's only for this year. I mean, it's still, you don't give up a second-round pick for a year of production.
I got to think that he's like a second cousin of somebody in the ownership circle, man. I mean, there's got to be something going on there, okay?
They draft Blackcock in the second round. But that's actually a good value pick. Anyway, I think there's something actually on Bleacher Report that's reporting that he's pissed off with the home getup he has. He's having internet problems, Bill O'Brien.
All right, he's definitely pissed off, always pissed off about something. I don't know. I mean, it's a team that I feel sorry for J.J. Watt and some of the other guys, especially the QB Watson. I think he could be one of the preeminent QBs in the league, but I think he's cursed to be, this era's Archie Manning. What do you think, Tom?
I think when you look at the Houston Texans, you can say they had some legitimate star power. They had DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver. They had J.J. Watt on defense. You had Deshaun Watson, who he's injury prone. But man, the Texans they were one of those teams when things are going right. They're a Super Bowl contender, and they come out, and you got to wonder, like DeAndre Hopkins. Wide receiver, they're usually the more, I believe, hot and cold, to say the least. They tend to get into some trouble off the fields. DeAndre Hopkins, you kind of really didn't hear anything compared to other wide receivers getting in trouble.
Yeah, and the diva aspect. I mean, Hopkins is a hard worker, goes out there, good teammate. He likes to get paid. Okay.
Yeah, don't we all? And this is kind of something where it's like,
I do. I like to get paid. Anybody else?
You kind of expect this from like Cleveland, where all this trouble going on, and it's just like it kind of. And also, I think the issue wasn't that he was traded, but he was traded for nothing. I think a comparable pick was the Giants traded Odell Beckham for a first-round pick and a starting guard.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't even get a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, not even a second-round pick.
Well, you've got the Diggs trade, just like what was it? Less than a week later, Nate?
Yeah, it was days afterward, and then they got fair compensation for it.
Yeah, it's not that was a ripoff; that was a fair trade.
Right. So, I mean,
okay, if Johnson shows up and gets 2,000 yards, then I'm going to go, all right, you know what? Damn it. That was a good trade.
Right. I mean, they're hedging their bets on a lot of stuff that doesn't have a lot of value. I mean, you take a look at Johnson. I mean, hasn't had a productive season in years. Look at Brandon Cooks.
Now, when he limps off the field in game 3 of the preseason, what are you going to say about the trade?
and then also you have Will Fuller, who's consistently hurt. So you invest in Laramie Tunzel. I mean, a deal just got done today, but I mean, I don't know why teams think they should give up multiple first-round picks and not get a deal done right away. Otherwise, you're giving the guy a blank check.
Pretty much are. Well, hey, Nate, hang with this, man, and let's move on to the next pick because, you are the biggest Packer fan here of the group. So let's talk about the other tight end out of Cincinnati, Joshua DeGuara. Okay. I mean, what do you think about that? Are they finally doing something here with a guy that might actually get some playing time within 3 years?
No. What is wrong with them? They draft a quarterback, which they already have. They draft a running back, which they already have. Now they draft a tight end. This kid is no good. I don't understand. Like it blows my mind.
But now hold it. It is in line with their current philosophy, though, because didn't they sign Graham, right?
Yes. And
so
And they've
So
also
they got to draft somebody behind another guy they've already got, right? I mean, doesn't that make the most sense, Nate?
I think Graham might have moved on, but they've also got Mercedes Lewis now, who's a young kid. The guy can be awesome, but they just don't want to do it. So what they've done is, so my notes on Mercedes Lewis say it took a few years to get going, but in 2018 he was a star. Right, he stepped up and was fantastic. He was one of their top receivers that year. He creates separation so well, has speed. He runs an impeccable route. He's agile and hard to tackle. His downside is he cannot block. The kid cannot block. Who wants a tight end? Who can't block? The Packers do. What a choice. I don't. 3 picks, 3 terrible picks. They've now gone ahead of the Seahawks through the shittiest draft. The Packers are on fire. This is horrible.
I don't know about that, Nate. If you're a Chicago Bears fan, are you thinking this is a bad pick?
Well, the
Are we talking
Chicago
about
Bears.
So far, I mean, I think you could tell there's certain teams that you can tell have a lot of pressure on them in the front office and the coaching staff. And I think that's very obvious about
You're right, man. You're scared.
the Chicago Bears. I mean, they go and overpay for Jimmy Graham, who hasn't produced since like 2001. And then they go ahead and with their very first pick, they draft Kmet. I mean, it's almost like they're doubling down on the fact that they're trying to convince themselves Mitchell Trubisky is a worthy starting quarterback. And a lot of people are going to get fired when they find out that he is not.
Yeah, true enough. True enough. All right, Tom, what's your take on this whole thing with the Green Bay Packers? Is just are they literally at the top of the leaderboard now for worst draft in 2020 so far?
I think with right now, they have more of the soap opera aspect going into camp, where it pretty much doesn't matter who they draft going forward. They're going to be like, why are you, Rodgers is what? How long is Rodgers signed for? He got a few more years in his contract.
4 more.
He got 4 more years in his contract. He's not talking about retiring. It's now commonplace for quarterbacks to push 40. And you're already drafting his replacement. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you look around and be like, instead of finding my replacement, get me some help. We can still win another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And this is something where it's going to be like, you got to wonder if the head coach is getting more influence. I think Vince Lombardi would not be happy how things are going.
No, I agree with that. But what you guys were saying, yeah, it's obvious that there are a lot of staffs under pressure, and well, yeah, I mean there are, but what I think is obvious is to me there's a few staffs that are wilting under pressure is what I'm saying. Dude, they're making some very interesting moves. But let's talk about a team that is not wilting under pressure. Tell me what you think about their latest pick. I'm talking about the Broncos. They went to and got a kid out of Arkansas, defensive tackle McTelvin Agim, 6'3", 309-pound kid. They needed somebody along the line, in the middle right there. What do you think, Spinksy?
What kind of name is that? Like, how do your parents name you? Like, it's ridiculous. Look, I spent a lot of time covering this guy. I really enjoy him. He's a superstar going forward. Hand in the dirt kind of talent, fast off the line, tackles really well, uses his hands. He's got good length, good speed. I think the Broncos are improving ever so slowly. It's taken them a while. They've gone through a lot the last couple of years. They've paid the wrong guys for many seasons, but I think they're starting to actually do something now. And I think McTelvin Agim is great and very impressed with him. So great pickup. I think they're finally starting to look on the up, the Broncos. So.
All right, Nate, Are the Broncos having one of those drafts like the Seattle Seahawks had a few years ago, where they got an unbelievable amount, where Dallas did when they got the dirty dozen? Are they having one of those drafts where they're just starting to hit on every freaking pick?
I don't know. That's a lot to say. I don't know a lot about their most recent pick, but I do know that they're shifting the direction of their team and trying to make something that was a weakness into a strength. So you have to take a look at their opponents. I mean, one of the ways to throw out a quarterback is to penetrate the middle. It's definitely a risk reward pick in the third round. So they can bring pressure on from the edges. We already know that, but now I think with the absence of Derek Wolfe, they can start to bulk up the middle.
I mean, it's there. Is this another team, Tom? I mean, we talked about them. They are going to have to be competing with the Ravens, with the Chiefs. Okay. Does it look like they're heading that they could possibly do it this coming season?
I think right now it's going to be tough to compete against the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens. They're 1A and 1B in the AFC.
What about the Raiders?
Raiders, I don't think they got to right now. I don't think they got to worry about as much.
And then Chargers are in the same boat they are, right?
I think Chargers and Raiders. They both.
That was painful. All right, guys. Let's actually move on a little bit to a team that is at the top of the food chain right now, and making a non-sexy pick here, offensive tackle. Spinks, do you got anything on this guy, Lucas Niang, other than the fact he is massive?
This kid is huge. He come out of Texas Christian, which I assume that's a bit of a Catholic school. Maybe?
Yeah, TCU, man, Texas Christian University. Yeah.
Look, he is
not a Catholic school. No, it's not. No,
it's a Bible worshiping school. Yeah. Look, this kid is massive. You don't get much larger human than he is. Spent the last 4 seasons with TCU, and he's strong. He's talented. He's thick. He's a thick boy, smart, can see the football, knows what he's doing on the field. Very good choice. I think going forward, the Chiefs are going to be even more dangerous than they have been the last a year or so. I think having him there is going to help everyone. Honestly, I can't see him starting straight away. He can probably sit for the first 6 to 8 games, maybe the first year, but definitely worthwhile going forward. This kid's great.
I actually saw some plays of his from one game, and what I was thinking when I saw him was road grader. I mean, he just seemed to engulf and just move people out of the way. So, I really like that. I just see this, putting him into the rotation and working him in. Is that what you're seeing there, Nate? The same thing? I mean, this is again, you have to protect that QB. I mean, he's the whole biscuit. So this is a smart move, right?
Yeah, I'm sending a text right now, shit talking Rotto, and then you go and interrupt me in the middle of a perfect soliloquy of just madness.
Well, you guys quit swapping the porn, okay? And let's get back to the draft. All right.
Yeah, I can't control him. He's into some really weird stuff.
All right, Tom, what do you got on this?
I'm sorry, I'm still digesting the last Giants pick. Who are we talking about now?
Exactly. Well, actually, we're getting ready to move on to a guy. We're going to rotate back to you, Spinks. And this is a guy that I really want to talk about. He actually reached out to Sports Talk Line at one point and asked us to put together some film for him from the Combine, which we did. He went to a school that I believe is in your satellite coverage area, again, being a Southern school. An LSU guy, I do believe. And from what I've seen of film on the guy, I really like him. And he ended up at a cool place, the Cleveland Browns. Why don't you talk to us about it?
One of my favorite LSU stars on this whole outfit. Jacob Phillips, the linebacker, has gone to the Cleveland Browns. Welcome to the NFL, Jacob Phillips. Unfortunately, you're with the Browns, so that sucks. I'm really sorry. However, this kid is great. Gets off the line really fast, gets after his man, knows where he's going on the football field, has a good football IQ. I had him going early 4th round, I think. So they probably reached a tiny bit for him here. But this year's draft, LSU are the hot ticket. Everyone wants them. I think he's now the 9th LSU guy off the board. It could be 10. Very impressed. I can't wait to see him with the Browns. Hopefully they have a game against the Cowboys in the next coming years. I'm not really sure, but I'd love to see him get after Dak. That'd be great. We're watching more Browns games going forward. This is a great choice. I would rather him have landed somewhere other than them, but it's a good pickup. Nice work.
Yeah, I'm really excited that he went because I really enjoyed looking at film on this kid, once he reached out to us. And he should have a nice career, a really nice career.
For sure.
All right.
The biggest problem I have, well, two things. That he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, first and foremost. I mean, it's not quite as bad as it may seem. You could get drafted by a franchise like the New Jersey Football Giants. So that kind of ruined any contact between Sports Talk Line and this young man. I mean, it was awful. I mean,
yeah, from there it was downhill.
awful.
Well, actually, that's a good segue because I think it's time to move into the New York Giants and talk about not only their pick, but that they're head right now, again, along the offensive line, which I don't think that they can get enough guys to bring in to compete along that offensive line. So I'm liking this pick before I even see who it is. But Tom, what about this pick and about their draft so far?
All right. So with the 99th pick overall, the New York Giants took offensive lineman, specifically offensive tackle from UConn, Matt Pert. This was something I was a little surprised they went with the tackle. I believe the way their roster is configured, they might try to switch them to guard or center, if not use them as a potential swing tackle. I thought they'd probably try to go after, the best center available. The best center available was Tyler Lattis from Wisconsin. I thought he made a lot of sense. But I think instead of going for maybe the position on the offensive line, they went with the best offensive lineman they had. This could be something where if, Hurt develops into a starter, all of a sudden they got 4 out of 5 legit. And if Soldier returns to form, they actually got an NFL offensive line. And, they have a decent offensive line going forward, which is something the Giants haven't had for almost, the last decade, which, you got to look at it right now with Saquon Barkley, running backs, their prime, is only so much. You got to cash in while they can. I'm pretty sure you can look at the Los Angeles or the Rams and see what they did with Todd Gurley. They only got so many carries left. With Barkley, okay, he's entering his 3rd year. You got to decide, are we going to pay him or, what's going to happen? So you need to cash in before Barkley hits free agency.
Well, Matt Pert is a monster. He's another 6'7" guy, man. There's several of them in this draft, which is really freaky when you think about it. And he's not a fat guy at all, but he is a big guy. He's comfortably, 318, 320, right around there. This gives them the ability to do a new dimension, I think, and block perhaps differently, different schemes, because they're getting some serious beef along this line right now, aren't they?
I think, Joe Judge, he wants to bring in a new scheme. They got some guy named Garrett. I don't know where he was beforehand. He's the new offensive coordinator. They mentioned a lot about being bringing a lot of tight ends. You're still wondering if the Giants are going to trade Evan Engram. I think that trade would have happened already. So now you just got to wonder, looks like they'll just hold on to Engram and see, what this new offensive coordinator can do for Engram, who ironically enough would always play his best when Odell Beckham Jr. was not on the team, but also Engram has battled injuries the last 3 seasons.
Well, Nate, you remember when Garrett was an offensive coordinator for Dallas? He was the hottest thing in the league. The Ravens were trying to sign him away as a head coach. As I recall, he ran a very balanced offense, and much to the chagrin of many, he would call pass plays down in the red zone, but he didn't really have the heavy hitter at running back that he does right now. What do you think about Garrett there, and what do you think about what the Giants have been doing so far along that offensive line?
Listen, I normally don't concern myself with the needs of the peasants of the world and the bottom feeders such as the New Jersey Giants, but I'm going to indulge you right now. First and foremost, Garrett's play calling is still stuck in the 1993 Norv Turner offense at the moment. If you look at the fast break points the league is turning into, teams are throwing more than ever on first and second down. One of the teams that's in the bottom of that league was the Dallas Cowboys. Garrett's still stuck in developing the run game first, pass second. That's just not the way the game is being played anymore. Well, regarding the offensive line, they had to go ahead and do something. Garrett's playbook requires a lot of deep 7-step drops in the pocket. Barkley is abysmal at pass protection, and they did not have the hosses on the offensive line. To be able to get the investments with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley playing well, they had to do something on the offensive line.
I think this.
So you like the pick, right?
Yeah, I do.
That was a long way around the barn, man. But I mean, what I got from that is you like the pick.
I think this pick really helps the Giants and helps Saquon going forward. Like their Achilles heel is Jason Garrett. He's their offensive coordinator. It'd be like 8-8, 8-8, and the clapper on the sideline. The clapper.
Yes. Listen, Giants will take 8-8 right now.
Yeah, 8-8 is a step up right now, guys. 8-8 is a step up. Okay.
Now, Spinksy, let me ask you this question because I see this pick. Do you see Pert being moved to another position, or is he going to be offensive tackle of the NFL?
I think he's offensive tackle. Yeah, he can play at guard too, but I stepped away.
6'7". That's going to be tough,
huge.
Isn't it?
Yeah. The man is huge. He's got strong hands. He's solid, a good length. Like he reaches so well. The problem is Jason Garrett is your offensive coordinator.
Spinksy, other people's trash are other people's treasures.
True. Can you imagine him on the sideline just clapping after clap after clap? Yeah.
Spitting every once in a while.
Yeah, just look at some of the wide receivers Dallas has sent around the league. Yeah.
All I got to say is I just hope I see the day Daniel Jones gives the Lombardi trophy to Jason Garrett. Just to see all Cowboys Nation's head explode. That would be worth.
Oh, that would be the bomb.
That would be.
I gotta say.
Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones and have him autographed.
The internet would explode at that point. I mean, seriously.
No
Eli's the one who gives it to him.
I think it would be awesome. I do. I mean, to me, that would be awesome. All right, but Nate, let's move on. The Raiders, that's another draft we want to look at. I want to talk about how their draft is unfolding. They've had plenty of picks, and I don't think it matters who their offensive coordinator is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just fucking God Gruden. and Boner Boy and Mike May wants to go get a player from Clemson every other play. In a good 10 rounds of drafting, 4 of their picks have been from Clemson in the last 2 years. But anyway, they've invested 3 picks in the first 3 rounds at wide receiver. They obviously want to invest in the well. They I don't think they're invested in Derek Carr.
But didn't they trade away a really good wide receiver?
Yeah. I mean, that's what
oh, wait a minute. And then, okay. And then didn't they sign another really good wide receiver?
Oh, what's his name? Crabtree?
Antonio Brown, Crabtree.
Oh, yeah. They basically are going to make it no excuses for Derek Carr. Now, I think they reached with.
Is that where wide receivers go to die right now?
Yeah.
I mean, like, remember for a while it was offensive linemen in Cleveland, or actually any first round pick for Cleveland. Their career was like, oh, shite, man. It was over. There was the guy that got the beanbag in the eye from the referee. I mean, it was. I mean, oh man, you couldn't make this stuff up. Yeah.
Randy Moss was awful as a wide receiver in Oakland with the Raiders. That should probably sum it up.
There you go. All right. Well, right now, the Raiders are looking at safety Tanner Muse, 6'2", 227. At least they didn't draft another wide receiver, right?
Yeah, I mean they've invested enough in it, and then Mayock had to get his Clemson player in it. I believe that's a guy who initially walked on at Clemson. I mean, he was not a scholarship player initially. Ended up starting eventually as a senior. So interesting. I think it's a bit of a reach with him. I think he was a god of a fifth-round player.
I think they've certainly reached with him. I think they've certainly reached with him here. However, I think he's one of those guys where he's good for your franchise. He's good in the locker room. He is a man's man. He is a talent. I think he will lift up everyone around him. I'm not sure he starts straight away. I know I covered the Raiders for a bit a couple of years ago, and they've always struggled in the backfield. I think they're ranked 30th in the NFL with passes over the top for touchdowns. So I think having him maybe as an understudy at the moment, that helps them. But going forward, he should be getting game time probably next year. So I like the pick. They probably reached a bit far here, but Tanner Muse, he's good. I like him.
Well, all right. They drafted cornerback in the first round, late in the first round, and then they go safety here. They definitely needed to upgrade their secondary, but then they also signed Jeff Heath, didn't they? And as a free agent.
Oh my God! Stop the match! Stop the match, Jeff Heath.
So now is he going to be relegated here to special teams duty, or is that really not a problem with this guy moving into the starting position?
I think Heath will kind of teach Tanner. I know Heath probably can't teach anyone, but he can probably teach Tanner a few things about how to be a decent safety. So I think Tanner is probably the man going forward. However, at the moment, he will just sit there and watch. So.
All right. Well, at least maybe, Heath will get one more year in the sun. That's nice, for that and for what it's worth. So overall, Nate, how would you rate my cats are getting excited about the picks coming up. Okay. Like, oh man. All right. They're talking Raiders. Let's go. Okay. How would you rate the Raiders draft? Are they, and perhaps the Green Bay Packers, tied for one of the most confusing drafts, or are you going all right, it's a little strange, but I see where you're going. Okay.
Yeah, it was interesting because they've gone unconventional since Mike Mayock has been there. Last year, a lot of people thought they reached for Clelin Ferrell, for instance, with the 4th pick overall. And then they hit some home runs. They hit some home runs in the first round with their running back, and they hit a home run with Max Crosby in the 4th round. A lot of people passed up on. So far, he's gone unconventional, but in a year from now, we could have a completely different opinion.
Easy enough. What do you think about that aspect, Tom?
Well, about the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're kind of something where, when Gruden came back, he got a lot of slack for trading Khalil Mack. He got a lot of slack for trading Amari Cooper. And then all of a sudden, after their second year and after the trade, Cooper and Mack kind of take a step down, and the Raiders, there's a little bit of a buzz. There's a little bit more of an overachievement. The funny thing is, I believe Gruden has a reputation of not wanting to play rookies, but a rookie running back is kind of what was the spark for him. You just got to wonder if are you better off not having a franchise quarterback, or not sure if your quarterback is the franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I think you're onto something right there. Definitely not sure if makes a lot of sense to me. All right. Well, let's move on back to the Patriots, who've made another pick at tight end. And I like this one a lot because I think he's a really versatile guy. And I can see Belichick being creative with this kid and turning him loose. What do you think, Spinks?
Yeah, Dalton Keene out of Virginia Tech. I like this guy. Strong, tall, good with his hands. He blocks really well. I think he's a good talent. I think spending a year or two, maybe you said the next 6 months on the sideline, just watching. Right. But I think the Patriots are struggling at tight end at the moment. They've had such good tight ends the last 10 years or whatever. So I think the Patriots are in a rebuild mode, but this guy certainly helps. So should be good.
Yeah, I mean, and they definitely want to address that tight end position. I mean, that's something that they want to do because he knows how to use them, definitely. Moving on down the draft bit here, we've got to talk about it because it's the Eagles, man. Okay, and they went outside linebacker this time, and he actually plays outside linebacker, and it's my understanding that they actually plan on using him as a linebacker, or maybe at quarterback. We're not certain. What do you think about this kid, Spinksy? Davion Taylor. My cats are not happy with him.
Davion Taylor out of Colorado is a good pickup, actually. I think he's a strong candidate to be a starter straight away. He's certainly not going to get after Dak or Daniel Jones, but stranger things happen. I think Taylor's good, man. I think going forward, he'll be strong for the Eagles. It's nice to see them actually take someone with some size and some actual talent. So, Tom, how do you feel about a guy named Davion Taylor coming after your quarterback hard?
Well, I think, the one concern, looking at ESPN, he weighed in at 228 pounds. That's more the size of a safety, not a linebacker.
Machine, yeah.
So that's probably like one concern you got coming in. You're going to need to put on some weight, or I'll take him versus Saquon one-on-one all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed that so far, if there is a trend for something in this draft with the Eagles, it's been to upgrade the overall team speed. You look at the first round, they go Jalen Reagor, who's an absolute burner. Can affect the punt return game as well. They wanted to increase team speed at the outside position, did that. They went and go ahead and overvalue Jalen Hurts. Again, a guy, if on the field, increases the overall speed to the team. Again, this round, they draft an undersized guy at linebacker, but again, they're focusing on team speed, this time on the defensive part of the field.
Well, what I'm hearing from you, Nate, is you're telling me that the Eagles' special teams are going to be really upgraded next season.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the long snapper the Giants have, but I mean,
true. All right, but no, that's the way I look at a lot of their picks. I totally agree with your assessment that, and you've been mentioning that as we work through the draft, that team speed is where they're going. And that's a huge thing because, to be quite frank, they got beat to the outside last year on defense somewhat. But Spinksy, I want to go back to tight ends again. Adam Troutman. Again, how did the Saints do this? I think he was one of the better ones when other tight ends have been going off the board, especially earlier. This was a guy that I thought was going to be going off the board earlier. What do you think? Or am I smoking some good stuff there?
you're definitely smoking the good stuff. Yes. Adam Troutman out of Dayton, Ohio, is a talent. This kid will be wonderful going forward. But haven't the Saints already got an awesome tight end?
Yeah, I mean that the thing about the Saints is they don't have a lot of holes. So this draft, they could just sit back and just take the talent as it comes to it.
I think they're just sort of taking guys because it's their turn to pick. I don't think there's no need as such there. I'd be surprised if Troutman plays a game for the Saints. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get traded or
they got to redshirt him, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or send him to the XFL if that's again. So,
but let me ask you this: do you think they could have it where they do a lot of 2 tight end sets?
They could. That stuff doesn't really happen as much these days as it once did. I haven't seen the Cowboys do a 2 tight end set since we lost Rico Gathers. So.
Well, it's interesting because the thing about Sean Payton, if you have talent, he's going to get you on the field, and he's not afraid to go in all sorts of different kind of formations. He runs 2 tight end sets. He runs 3 receivers. He's
versatile. He's versatile. I agree. You know, he has that Belichick ability to play different schemes from week to week. And not only that, I mean, yeah, they got tight end, but Jared Cook and consistency have never been something that's been used in the same sentence unless they're talking about lack of. Do you guys agree? I mean, last year was one of his best seasons ever.
Yeah.
And it was just good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where they're just valuing their board at this point. They're not a team that's going to chase necessarily need. They have a Super Bowl roster. They have the talent to really make a push. I like their draft so far. I agree with what you guys are saying. This is a team that truly has been taking the best player available on the board.
But do you think, though, the Saints need to start looking at, all right, how old is Drew Brees? Should they get the heir apparent in, especially if Teddy Bridgewater walked? Should they get someone lined up to replace Brees when that time comes?
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, Tyree Phillips, Mississippi State offensive tackle, finishes out the draft going to the Ravens. Is there anybody that we didn't cover that you guys want to cover, or is it time to sign off and say, you know, this has actually been a pretty darn good draft, virtual or not? I like it. I think we made clear which teams have done well, and then there's the Packers. Okay.
I want to say Tyree Phillips is a massive human at 6'5", so not exceptionally tall. He is 350 pounds. This kid is huge.
Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mississippi State. You covered that, so that's down in your. Yeah, that's a Gulf. That's a Gulf Coast thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think the Giants have had a good draft so far. I mean, people want to talk about draft value, you know, mainly Cowboys fans. Okay. But, and why? Why? That's right. That's right. Why? But I think the Giants have had a solid draft. I also think, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, the Redskins have not embarrassed themselves this draft.
Done really well, actually. The Redskins have done well. Of the 4 NFC East teams, you've got the Cowboys, you've got the Redskins, you've got a huge gap, you've got the Giants, and then a massive gap to the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles are still running. I know where they are.
The smile on your face, Tom, everybody, when he said that, everybody just kind of like smiled, man. It was just a mutual break, smile break. Okay, all right.
And they were the team that last won the Super Bowl in that division, and it's like they got rid of the quarterback that won that Super Bowl. They signed an extension to the guy that got hurt. Now they come in and they draft a guy who's the college equivalent of them. Yeah. So it's
okay. Actually, I challenge all 3 of you. For the season moving forward, especially for a roundtable, we need to find an Eagles guy that can fit in, good writer, good content creator. If for no other reason, because I want to be able to fuck with an Eagles guy for this next coming season. Okay.
Yes, we do.
All right. That's got to be done. That's got to be done.
Like Tom is getting just like double penetrated by Spinksy and I.
Well, hey, look, this is a good moment here before we go much further.
Big. I don't have to worry about
Everyone that's been watching, we really, really appreciate what you've been doing. Please add to the comments. Let us know what you think about what we've been discussing. Let us know who you think has had a good draft and who you think is competing with the Packers for the worst draft of the NFL. All right. And hit that subscribe button. All right. Hit that little bell and get notified. We really appreciate it. At this point, I want to thank Tom McAllister at defends_com. Thank you for being here. Nate Dowdy, all right, at No Remorse Sports. And of course, Spinksy himself at Spinksy NFL. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. And for everyone out there who's taken time out of their day to be here with us, thank you again so much. Until next time, watch and listen like you play with intensity.